It's 2 a.m. You're sound asleep in your bed when suddenly there's pounding on your front door. You stumble out of bed, half asleep, heart racing. You look through the peephole and see police officers standing outside. Your mind starts racing. What do I say? What do I do? Am I in trouble? Do I have to open this door? Here's the reality. This moment right here, how you respond in the next 60 seconds, could be one of the most important decisions you ever make. Because what most people don't realize is that police showing up at your door in the middle of the night is almost always an investigation. They're not there to check on you. They're not there to be your friend. They're there to find evidence, get a confession, or make an arrest. And the way you respond can either protect your constitutional rights or hand the police everything they need to build a case against you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to say, what to do, and most importantly, what not to do when police knock on your door at night. I'm going to explain the legal tactics police use, the tricks they'll try to pull, and the exact phrases that will protect your Fourth Amendment rights. Let's get into it. First, let's establish the foundation of your constitutional rights. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Now, what does that mean for you when police show up at your door? It means that your home is the most protected place under the law. The United States Supreme Court has said repeatedly that the right of a man to retreat into his own home and there be free from unreasonable governmental intrusion is at the very core of the Fourth Amendment. The front porch, the curtilage, the area immediately surrounding your home, all of that is considered part of your home for constitutional purposes. This was made crystal clear in Florida versus Jardines back in 2013, where the Supreme Court said the area immediately surrounding and associated with the home is considered part of the home itself for Fourth Amendment purposes. So here's the big question everyone wants to know. Do you have to open the door? The simple answer is absolutely not. You have no legal obligation to open your door for police officers. You have no legal obligation to speak with them. You have no legal obligation to engage with them in any way whatsoever. The United States Supreme Court made this explicitly clear in Kentucky versus King in 2011 when they stated that whether the knock comes from a police officer or a private citizen, the occupant has no obligation to open the door or to speak. Let me say that again because this is critical. You have no obligation to open the door or to speak. This is true whether it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. Now let me explain exactly what's happening when police show up at your door. There's a well-known police tactic called the knock and talk. This is where officers approach a residence, knock on the front door, and try to engage whoever answers in conversation. Their goal is simple. They want to get inside your house. They want to see what's going on in there. They want to get you to talk. They want you to either consent to a search or say something incriminating. The Supreme Court has recognized that there's an implied license for anyone, including police officers, to approach a home, knock on the door, and attempt to speak with the occupants. This implied license is similar to what allows Girl Scouts to come sell cookies or trick-or-treaters to ring your doorbell on Halloween. But here's the critical difference. That implied license is limited. It allows a visitor to approach the home by the front path, knock promptly, wait briefly to be received, and then, absent an invitation to linger longer, leave. That's it. The police are not entitled to anything more than any other member of the public would be entitled to. So what happens if you open that door? The moment you crack open that door, you've now given the police an opportunity. They're going to be looking at you. They're going to be looking past you. They're going to be looking into your home, trying to see anything in plain view that might give them probable cause to enter. This is called the plain view doctrine. If an officer sees something illegal sitting on your coffee table through the open door, they now potentially have the legal basis to enter your home. You've just handed them the key. Here's what I want you to do if police knock on your door at night. First, do not open the door. Look through your peephole. Look through your Ring camera. Look through a side window, but do not open that door. You can speak to the officers through the closed door. Second, I want you to say these exact words. Officer, how can I help you? Keep it simple. Keep it polite. Let them explain why they're there. 9 times out of 10, what you're going to hear is they want to come inside. They want to ask you some questions. They want to look around. Maybe they'll claim there's been a complaint in the neighborhood. Maybe they'll say they got a tip about something. Here's what you say next. Officer, do you have a warrant? This is the most important question you can ask, because without a warrant, the police have no legal right to enter your home without your consent. If they say no, they don't have a warrant, your response is, I'm sorry, officer, but I do not consent to you entering my home or to any search. I wish you a good night. That's it. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your decision. You don't have to give them any reason whatsoever. Your constitutional right to privacy in your own home is not contingent upon your innocence. You could have absolutely nothing to hide, and you still have every right to refuse entry. In fact, the Supreme Court has recognized that refusing to consent to a search cannot be used against you in court. They absolutely cannot use your refusal of consent as evidence of guilt. Now, let me warn you about the tricks police are going to use when you refuse. First, they're going to try to make you feel guilty. They'll say things like, "Hey man, if you have nothing to hide, why won't you let us take a look?" Or, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Just let us in now, and we'll be out of here in 5 minutes." Don't fall for this. This is a psychological manipulation tactic designed to pressure you into giving up your rights. Remember, you have nothing to gain by letting them in without a warrant and everything to lose. Second, they might threaten you. They might say, "If you don't let us in, we're going to get a warrant and come back." Here's what you say. "Officer, you are absolutely free to go get a warrant, but I do not consent to any search." If they truly had enough evidence for a warrant, they likely would have gotten one before showing up at your door. This is often a bluff. Third, they might try what's called manufacturing exigent circumstances. Exigent circumstances is a legal exception that allows police to enter your home without a warrant under emergency situations. There are only a few legitimate exigent circumstances recognized by the law: hot pursuit of a fleeing felon, the need to prevent the imminent destruction of evidence, the need to prevent someone's escape, emergency situations where someone inside may be in danger, or the need to provide immediate aid to someone. The Supreme Court has ruled that police can enter a home without a warrant when there is a need to provide urgent aid to those inside, when police are in hot pursuit of a fleeing suspect, or when police fear the imminent destruction of evidence. But here's what's important. The police cannot create their own exigency. They cannot bang on your door, claim they hear suspicious sounds, and then force their way in. The Supreme Court addressed this directly in Kentucky versus King when they said police cannot engage or threaten to engage in conduct that violates the Fourth Amendment in order to create an exigency. Let me give you a scenario. Police knock on your door at night. You don't answer. They hear movement inside the house. They claim they believe evidence is being destroyed. Can they now kick in your door? This is exactly what happened in Kentucky versus King. The Supreme Court ruled that police knocking on the door, even knocking loudly and announcing their presence, is lawful conduct. If the occupants inside then start destroying evidence in response to the knock, that's on the occupants, not the police. However, and this is crucial, the police must actually have probable cause to believe that evidence is being destroyed. Normal household sounds, people moving around, that's not enough. The court is going to scrutinize whether the police truly had a reasonable belief that evidence was being destroyed or whether they're just making it up after the fact. What about wellness checks? This is another situation where police commonly show up at night. Maybe a family member called because they couldn't reach you. Maybe a neighbor reported something concerning. Can police enter your home for a wellness check? The law states that if a police officer has a reasonable belief that someone inside a residence is in need of immediate aid, or that there is an imminent threat to someone's life, they can make an entry without a warrant. This is called the emergency aid doctrine. But here's the key. The officer must have an objectively reasonable basis for believing that someone is in need of immediate assistance. They can't just claim wellness check and walk right in. If you answer the door or even respond through the door and say, "I'm fine, thank you for checking," they have no basis to enter. The emergency is over. Here's another critical point. Late-night knock and talks receive increased scrutiny from the courts. The courts have recognized that showing up at someone's home in the middle of the night is inherently more coercive and intimidating than during the day. As one court put it, a number of courts have found late-night inquiries unreasonable because of the societal expectation that members of the public would not knock on one's front door in the middle of the night. Courts have found knock and talks between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. particularly suspect, and they will closely examine whether the officers had any legitimate reason to believe the occupant would be receptive to visitors at that hour. Now let me talk about what happens if police actually do have a warrant. If police show up at your door and claim to have a warrant, here's what you do. First, ask to see the warrant. They are legally required to present the warrant to you. You can ask them to slip it under the door or hold it up to a window where you can read it. Second, actually read the warrant. A valid search warrant must specify what areas can be searched and what items they're looking for. If the warrant says they can search the garage, they cannot go into the bedroom. Third, once you've verified there is a valid warrant, you must comply. Open the door. Do not physically resist. But here's what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any search beyond the scope of what is expressly provided for in this warrant." Why do you say this? Because it preserves your legal rights. If the police exceed the scope of the warrant, your attorney can challenge any evidence found outside that scope. Fourth, exercise your right to remain silent. Say, "Officer, I exercise my right to remain silent and my Sixth Amendment right to counsel. I want to speak to a lawyer." Then stop talking. Let me give you some practical steps to protect yourself. Number one, install a video doorbell or camera system. Recording your interactions with police is your absolute right, and it can be the best defense you have if something goes wrong. Courts give police a lot of leeway when they claim to feel scared or threatened. Video evidence tells the objective truth. Number two, never step outside your home. The moment you step outside, you've given up many of the protections your home provides. Stay inside. Keep the door between you and the officer. Number three, keep your hands visible at all times if you do interact with police. Do not make any sudden movements. Do not reach into your pockets. Officers are trained to interpret quick movements as potential threats, and you do not want to escalate the situation. Number four, always remain calm and polite. Do not raise your voice. Do not argue. Do not insult the officer. You're not going to win an argument with a police officer on your doorstep at 2 a.m. The place to fight this battle is in court with your attorney. Here's what you need to understand. If police force their way into your home without a warrant and without legitimate exigent circumstances, any evidence they find is potentially inadmissible in court. This is called the exclusionary rule. Evidence obtained through an illegal search cannot be used against you. Furthermore, any evidence derived from that illegally obtained evidence may also be excluded under what's known as the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. This is why protecting your rights at the front door is so critical. If you let them in, if you consent, you've waived those protections. Let me also address no-knock warrants. A no-knock warrant is a warrant issued by a judge that allows law enforcement to enter a property without immediately announcing themselves. These are typically used when there's a belief that evidence might be destroyed between the time police announce themselves and the time they secure the area. Currently, some states like Florida, Oregon, Tennessee, Virginia, and Connecticut have banned no-knock warrants. If you're in one of these states, police must knock and announce themselves even when executing a warrant. However, even in states where no-knock warrants are permitted, the standard knock and announce rule still applies in most circumstances. Police are supposed to knock, announce their presence and purpose, and give you a reasonable opportunity to answer the door before forcing entry. Here's the scenario I see most often get people in trouble. Police knock, the person panics, they open the door just a crack. The officer wedges his foot in the door. Now they're having a conversation with a police officer who is literally forcing his way into their home. What do you do in this situation? First, do not slam the door on the officer's foot or hand. That will get you arrested for assault on a police officer or resisting arrest. Second, verbalize clearly. "Officer, I do not consent to your entry. I do not consent to any search. I am not resisting, but I do not consent." Keep repeating this. Why? Because if this ends up in court, you want the record to be absolutely clear that you never consented to entry. What if police enter anyway without a warrant and without consent? Do not physically resist. I cannot stress this enough. Physical resistance will result in additional charges against you. It could result in you being injured or worse. Let them enter. Continue to verbalize that you do not consent. "Officer, I do not consent to this entry. I do not consent to any search. I wish to remain silent. I want to speak to an attorney." Then document everything afterward. Write down the officers' names, badge numbers, exactly what happened, and exactly when it happened. Get your attorney involved immediately. Let me leave you with this final thought. Your home is your castle. This is not just a saying, it's a legal principle that goes back centuries in common law. The Fourth Amendment exists specifically to protect you from unreasonable governmental intrusion into your private space. When police knock on your door at night, they are banking on your fear, your confusion, and your lack of knowledge about your rights. They know that most people will open that door. They know that most people will feel compelled to answer questions. They know that most people will let them in just to make the whole thing go away. Don't be most people. Know your rights. Exercise your rights. Don't open that door unless they have a warrant. Don't consent to any search. Don't answer any questions beyond confirming your identity. And always, always get an attorney involved if the situation escalates. Remember these phrases. "Officer, do you have a warrant? I do not consent to any search. I exercise my right to remain silent. I want to speak to an attorney." These 4 sentences could be the difference between protecting your freedom and making the biggest mistake of your life. Now let me address one more common scenario that I see all the time. What happens if police claim they smell marijuana or something illegal coming from your home? This is one of the oldest tricks in the book. In many states, the odor of marijuana is no longer sufficient by itself to establish probable cause for a search, especially in states where marijuana has been legalized for recreational or medical use. The smell between burnt hemp and marijuana is indistinguishable, and courts are increasingly skeptical of officers who claim they smell marijuana as a pretext to search. But regardless of what state you're in, here's the principle. The claim of an odor cannot be verified in the moment. There's no way to prove or disprove what an officer claims to smell. That's why it's so important to refuse consent and let your attorney challenge any search based on claimed odors in court. One more thing I want you to understand about the timing of police visits. Courts have consistently recognized that late-night encounters with police are more coercive by nature. When officers show up at your home at 2 or 3 in the morning, you're disoriented, you're tired, you're vulnerable. Courts have recognized that officers arriving at these hours must have some articulable justification for believing the occupant would be receptive to visitors. If they cannot articulate why they believed a middle-of-the-night visit was appropriate, that works in your favor when challenging the legality of any search or seizure in court. So overall, can police demand to enter your home at night? Absolutely not without a warrant. Can they knock and try to talk to you? Yes, but you have no obligation to open the door or engage with them. Can they force their way in claiming an emergency? Only if there is a genuine exigent circumstance, not something they manufactured themselves. Your home is protected by the Fourth Amendment, and that protection is strongest against nighttime intrusions when you're at your most vulnerable. Now, we just covered exactly what to do when police show up at your door at night. But did you know that police can legally lie to you during an investigation? Check out this next video where I break down the top lies police use and exactly how to handle them. See you over there.